ask it in a poll. So on your screen, you should see a question. And the question is, do you remember any dream that you had over the last week? Yes, I think I had it, but I forgot. Or no, I don't remember my dreams. Curious to know your thoughts? And I'm going to share your results in a moment. The polls are coming in. Oh, this is exciting. This is exciting. Here we go. All right, I'm going to end the poll and take a look at the results. 63% of you remember your dreams. That is amazing. And some of you had them, but maybe it slipped your mind or you're not remembering them. And then some people, 9%, don't remember your dreams. And all of it's perfect. All of it's okay. I wanted to ask that question because, you know, we're curious. We have a wonderful masterclass plan for you. So before I introduce Hina, I wanted to just share with you that towards the end of this call, Hina will share an exciting prize that everyone here, one person will have an opportunity to win. So stay tuned for that. All right. I love that you're sharing where you're from in the world. So I'm going to introduce Hina. And for those of you that aren't aware, Hina is, and I'm not just saying this because I work here, she really is one of the best in the world. Peak performance mindset coach, former psychotherapist. Hina changes lives. Today we have a special guest as well, and wait till you see what we have planned. Well, help me please put your hands together as we welcome the one, the only Hina Khan.
Thank you, Gabby. Welcome everybody to this incredible masterclass. I am so thrilled that you are here. Can you let me know if this is your first time in my energy? This is your first time doing a call with me. Let me know because we really, really want to welcome you. And if it is not your first time, let me know if you're a client or a former client or you're somebody that has been just following us, coming to our things. Yes, Jessica says, get out a fresh piece of paper. Yay, client and raving fan, client, thank you. So, I saw a first timer. Who was the first timer? And Tessa's a new client. Leslie, former client. Beautiful. Karen has been following. Well, welcome. You're in for a real treat. We're doing something that we've never done before, which I love. And I was thinking about this and I thought about the lottery. Imagine if at one point we had thought, if I win the lottery, I get to go to this rock and live on this planet. And I have this amazing suit. And I get to see the sky. And I get to be on the earth. And I get to experience things like tangibly. I get to meet incredible people. I get to mix with people. I get to really fulfill my heart's desires because I'm so supported by these natural forces. And while I'm there, while I'm on this rock that is spinning in this solar system, it's going to go by super, super quick. And I get to receive and create everything I desire. That's where we all are right now. We won the lottery. We get to go. We are on this magical place. But we have forgotten many times that link to that place of where we came and where we will return. And the purpose of what we're going to do today is to lean into that connection. Sometimes people will refer to what we're going to talk about as kind of woo-woo. I do not refer to it as that at all. Would you refer to the law of gravity as woo-woo? Oh, the law of gravity, so woo-woo. Hear these people, they're talking about the law of gravity. Natalie says no. Glenna says no, we wouldn't. The same force, that invisible force, is what we're talking about connecting to. We can't see the law of gravity, but do we all believe in the law of gravity? Do we know the effects of the law of gravity? So we're going to connect to that broader perspective today. And when you do this, you're going to realize how you can have quantum leaps. This is part of having quantum leaps. You don't have to go up the ladder one rung at a time. We're going to show you how to jump rungs by using something that we've all got. I've been in this work for well over 2 decades as a psychotherapist and now coaching. And whether I work one-on-one or with a group, intuition is always at the forefront. It's always at the center for me. And that is how I've been able to create a 7-figure plus business through ease, joy, and fun. It's been following my intuition. Because even the thought, and we were talking about this today on my morning call, even the thought of creating a business through ease, joy, and fun is a different thought than what is commonly held out there. So it's not going to be something that we may see around us all the time. Your intuition led you here. Think about that. Your intuition led you here. Maybe some of you happened to see this come across your social media. Maybe somebody mentioned it to you. Maybe you were invited. And then you had an intuitive nudge. Oh, I want to go to this. This is important. There's something here that I need to hear. And if you're watching live on Facebook, welcome. And I want to encourage you to share this live so that it can help to reach more people if you feel like there's others that should really understand and learn about this. Karen says, it was full intuition that popped when I first saw you, Hina, on Instagram. Yeah, you were led here, Karen, led to be in this energy. I love that. If anybody else has some ideas or thoughts around how their intuition led them to first learn about me or this masterclass, let us know in the chat. It's so fun because you see how common it is. You're going to hear me over the next, well, in every class, I'll be talking about, I might refer to some programs that we have. You may hear from some clients. I want to let you know that that's probably going to pique your interest and you're going to be like, what is she talking about? I will go into that deeper, but I'm going to do that on day 3. So we will not be talking about our programs or things that we offer for the first 2 days, and we will do that on our VIP day. But if you're curious, if you're like, I do want to know more now, then we'll drop in a booking link and you can speak to somebody on my team. You do not only have to book a call because you want to hear more about what we do. I want to make sure you're getting the most out of our few days together. So if you have questions or want to go deeper on some of the concepts that I'm talking about, and Amber, who you're going to meet soon, that we're talking about, please book a call. My team is so happy to help you understand this material. At the end, like Gabby said, we're also going to announce a really, really special prize that will be given to everybody. That name will go into a draw that is playing full out, which means you show up live and you do the home play. We'll talk about that later. I would say one of the things that has made a difference for me is really leaning into my intuition every day in every way. And I'm going to share with you something that happened recently that's really sort of almost mundane. I was invited to go back to Arizona in January to speak at an event, and I'm booking my tickets. And I had been kind of looking at tickets over a couple of days, but it never felt right to book it. It wasn't the price. It was just, it didn't feel right to book it. And then I'm looking one day and I see that there are 3 ones in the price. and I book it immediately. Because I know that that is one of the ways that I connect to intuition. It's through seeing signs, repeated numbers. Does anybody have that? Now, I don't question that. Yeah, Jesse says 444. John says yes. Miriam says yes. So the difference is that before I might get that intuitive nudge, like book it now. And then I'd be like, but why? Because I see some numbers. I would start to question it. I don't do that anymore. Now I know that this is my connection. I'm not walking alone. I'm walking with spirit. And this is how we're communicating with each other. We've made some deals on how we're going to communicate with each other. And you're going to hear more stories like this. So for me, and I don't know, and again, I'm just sharing what I believe to be truth. I'm not saying it is the truth. But for me, intuition is communication with source, God, guides, infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it. And there is a vantage point that this infinite intelligence has. So, and then how are they going to communicate it to us? Well, they're going to communicate to us in feelings. They're going to communicate to us in our dreams, in symbols, in signs. Because honestly, well, Amber will talk about this, but I'm like, if they just showed up, we might be a little scared. So unless you're Amber, then we just show up. More on that later. But for the rest of us common folk, it's like, just give me a sign. Yeah, I love Miriam's got all those numbers. Yes, 9/11. So for me, it's definitely those 11s and a mix of them. And so they've got a broader perspective. So for me, when I see the 311s in the price of the flight, to me, that's communication happening, saying, book it now. And the infinite intelligence has a broader perspective. Now, I wasn't debating between different flights. So I'm not saying that I was debating between going on this day or this day. It was the exact same flight that I was looking at, the exact same return and departure, but it never felt right to book it until that moment. So for different people, it will show up in different ways. But what would it be like in your life if you could trust that? Kadeen says, I wish I had that. You do, Kadeen, and we're going to show you exactly how. You're in the right place. And what would it be like if you didn't question it? If you just knew, if you were bringing somebody onto your team and you could connect to that to help you make decisions, taking on a client, or if you're thinking about investing in something, what would it be like to know what it feels like when infinite intelligence source, God, your guides are saying, yeah, yes, I got you. Don't be scared. I got the how. This is why we say the how is none of your business. Your physical mind couldn't even conceive of all the hows. You can conceive of some hows, but we leave that up to infinite intelligence, and then it will reveal to us the how, but we have to take the first step. Think about when I remember I was in this hotel in Orangeville, Ontario, before a speaking engagement. And I don't know if you've ever had this, but I opened the door to the hallway. As soon as I stepped out, the lights came on. The light didn't come on when I was in my room. I had to open the door for the light to come on. So it's all here waiting to support you, but you've got to open the door. Which means that you've also got to start to recognize how it is speaking to you, how it is connecting with you, which we're going to talk about today. Then as I opened the door, the light came on, and then the hall was lit up. As I was taking steps, the light came on, the light came on, the light came on. That's what you're going to tap into. Yay. Okay. Oh, who is excited about this masterclass right now? From a scale of 1 to 10, let me know how you're feeling right now. 10, 10, 10s, love it. 14. And Jermaine, 10, 11s, beautiful. 20, Karen, 2777, I love it. Shannon, 10, Liz, Prasha, 20, I love it. Okay. I want to read something to you and I want you to really think about it. And then we're going to introduce Amber. Whew. This is a quote by Carolyn Miss, and I shared this quote at our retreat recently. We often hesitate to follow our intuition out of fear. Who can relate? As I'm saying this, let me know in the chat, comment in the chat as I'm saying this. Yeah, so many of you are saying yes. Usually we are afraid of the changes in our own life that our actions will bring. Yes or no? Yeah. Intuitive guidance, however, is all about change. It is energetic data ripe with the potential to influence the rest of the world. To fear change, but to crave intuitive clarity is like fearing the cold, dark night while pouring water on the fire that lights your cave. So imagine that. We ask for it, right? We're asking for signs. We ask for these intuitive nudges. We're asking for it, but we're scared to change. We're asking for it, we get it, and then we dismiss it. We're like, oh, no, that can't be it. We talk ourselves out of it. Andrea says, my whole body is buzzing right now. It's so strange, yet it happens often. Hina, we're going to talk about that. As you said that, now I've got chills as well. What is that? When you have goosebumps, what happens when you have goosebumps on your hand? What happens to the hair on your hands when you get goosebumps? What happens to the hair? They stand. Do you know why, Nadine? Do you know why they stand up? Connection to the infinite. Think about that. That just blew someone's mind. That's why your hair stands up. To fear change, but to crave intuitive clarity is like fearing the cold, dark night while pouring water on the fire that lights your cave. An insight the size of a mustard seed is powerful enough to bring down a mountain-sized illusion that may be holding our lives together. Truth strikes without mercy. We fear our intuitions because we fear the transformational power within our revelations. So who here is ready to drop the fear of their intuitive power? Okay. So let's do it then. Let's go deeper. And to do that, I want you to welcome, throw lots of love in the chat for my friend, for my colleague, for the incredible divine channel that is Amber Sauvé. Everybody, welcome Amber. Throw love in the chat for Amber.
Hi, everybody. Thank you.
I love Amber because Amber and I'm like, and Amber's just like, hi. She's like so beautiful and has this beautiful energy about her, and we balance each other out so incredibly. So Amber, some of the people on this call know you from the retreat. For others, it's their very first time being introduced to you. So could you please share a little bit about who you are and what a divine channel is?
Absolutely. So I have been in communication with spirit since I was a little girl. Most of my life has been in communication with the universe in different ways. So I've developed into a divine channel, which means that I have the ability to communicate with any energies that don't reside in a physical body. So these are including but not limited to our spirit guides, our past loved ones, our angels, our ancestors. Many different energies exist, and they're all here to help us if they're on your team. So I say that everyone has a home team, and these are guides that are assigned to you and your evolution as you move through your life. Their only job, their only role is to ensure that you have every opportunity to reach your highest and best timeline in this existence. So it's like your own personal cheerleading team. And so what I've developed into doing is being the facilitator and introducing people to their teams so that they can better lean on their intuition and get every last bit of juice out of life.
I love this, Amber. Can you explain for people? You said that you've had this connection to spirit since you were a little girl. And I know that many of us could probably think about times where I felt that too. When I was younger, I would hear voices, I would ask questions, and I would hear a voice. But as I grew up, I feel like I lost the connection. Did that happen for you, or have you always sustained this?
Great question. So when we're younger, as children, we're all very connected to where we kind of just came from, right? There's a very thin veil, as I like to call it. The older that we get and the more that our ego develops, the more that we're told no, the more that we're introduced into kind of the 3D world, our veil gets thicker. We get further removed from our ability to connect with source. A lot of times we're told that it's not a real thing, or we're experiencing things we shouldn't be. And so we tend to disassociate from all of that. I did as well for a long time. When I went to school for the first time, I realized that not everybody in my grade was perceiving things the same way that I was. I was having a very different experience than most of the kids my age. And so in an effort to just be normal and fit in, I shut off my connection with spirit. And so I went through the majority of my life, my teens, my 20s, not really connected, still very intuitive without really putting words to it. And then my father passed away 6 years ago now. And when that happened, my channel opened up in full. It was like it had never left. And I made a deal with spirit in a way that if I was able to communicate with the other side again, like I once could, then I would have to be of service for everyone else. And so that's what I do. And it's the greatest joy of my life. And I'm so blessed to have been able to lean into my channel the way that I've been able to.
Amber, when you say when your father passed away, your channel opened, what exactly does that mean?
It's a great story. I do believe part of my life purpose is to be a divine channel. And so when my father passed away and I was in the throes of grief and really at the core of my humanity, like really feeling into my body and being so lost, one night, my personal team, who I'd known from years and years ago, showed up in my room in the middle of the night. And they said, if this is something that you want, then you're going to use it for the good of everyone. And I was so sorry that I'd lost my dad. And I was so looking forward to communicating again that it was the easiest answer for me. And so when I agreed, because everything is consensual in energy work, by the way. So when I agreed that that was the path that I would like to take, then my channel just opened, and all of a sudden, all of my clairs, which we'll talk about, all of the ways that we can communicate with spirit using our senses, they opened right up, and it was like it had never left.
So I know some people just heard that and said, okay, whoa. Let's just rewind there for a moment. In the middle of the night, your team shows up. Like, what are you seeing? Like, is it showing up like a physical person you're seeing? Are you sensing? What do you mean by that?
So typically I'm clairvoyant, which means I have clear seeing. So I perceive things with my third eye, almost like a movie playing in my head. But because I'd been so removed from my channel and I'd been so closed off, I think they really wanted to make an impact. So I was perceiving them with my own two eyes, the same way that I'm seeing you now, Hina. So it was kind of their attempt at being like, we're really here.
Right.
We want you to
Right.
know that we're here, because I, believe it or not, I'm very skeptical about all of these things. I need proof for everything that I experience. And so that was the best way that they could come through and actually, be present. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I can get on board with this.
Oh, so fascinating. And do you believe that everybody has this ability?
I know that everyone has this ability. I am not special. Everyone can do what I can do. It's just that I have been practicing longer. I've been working this muscle longer. So our intuition, our sixth sense, whatever you want to refer to it as, is inherent in us. We're born with it. It's as tangible as the rest of our five senses. And when we are in tune with that, and when we have that awareness, it deepens our connection to the universe so much more, and it allows us so much more opportunity for alignment. It is the best tool that we have, and I'm so excited to get into it with you, Hina, because I know that so many people can benefit from just the awareness that we all have this ability.
So I know you're excited to get into it. I'm excited to get into it, but I want to know, with those of you that are listening and watching right now, whether you're watching on YouTube, on Facebook, or here with us, are you excited for us to get into it? Jennifer Love, yes. Jennifer Franklin, yes, yes. Andrea said she was kind of feeling buzzing. I'm like, you must be electric right now, Andrea, since we've started. Amazing, Nadine, amazing. Okay, so what I'd love to start with, because we're going to build on this over the next few days. So everybody just know we've got 90 minutes every day for the next few days. So, Amber, what I would like to know is, how do you distinguish between intuition and fear?
Great question. And probably one of the questions I get the most when people start to become aware of their intuition. So we live in a very fast-paced society, and this kind of forces us to go against our natural rhythms. We're kind of always looking for perceived dangers, things that could go wrong. It's very easy to fall into the trap of having compulsive, anxious thoughts. And especially when we have things that we care about so much, we don't want anything bad to happen to the people that we love. And so we're constantly kind of on the lookout or overthinking how our day is going to go. And so the best advice that I ever got is that your intuition is never going to come from a place of fear. Your intuition is a tool that allows you opportunity to make the best choices. So it helps me to remember that there's fate and there's also free will. So in my experience in working with clients and in channeling for myself, there is a lot of fate element to our lives. So it also helps knowing that there's no creator or universe out there that wants bad things to happen to you. Everything is an experience, and everything is actually rigged to support us. But we have this free will on the other side. That is the best part about being human. We have this beautiful free will, the choices that we get to make. We get to wake up every day and decide who we're going to be. And it's our free will that dictates how fast we get to these fate checkpoints. So I call fate checkpoints like canon events, things that are like people we marry, jobs that we take, places we travel. We're going to get to these points. We decide how long it takes for us to get there using our free will. And so a lot of times we can use anxiety or fear to talk ourselves out of doing those action steps that are going to get us to these checkpoints. And that's totally fine. We're all on our own journey. But know that you have a home team that is here to help you and encourage you to achieve all of these beautiful things in life. So what helps me the most is knowing that my intuition is going to show up as an action step and not as a fear. So, for example, a lot of clients will come to me and say, I'm driving to work and I think, oh my gosh, what if this car swerves into me and I get in a car accident? This is an anxious thought. Your intuition is never going to give you a what if, okay? That's important to know. It's never going to be this scenario in your head, like, oh my gosh, this could happen. Your intuition is going to come through in an action step. So you might have a knowing to turn your wheel, or you might have a vision of you getting into the next lane. It depends on how you receive communication. But the whole goal of your intuition is to keep you out of situations like that. So you'll hear often, sometimes someone will hear move in an instant, and they do. And it's
I know,
all
I used to be weird like that.
and that's your intuition. So fear versus intuition is knowing that the whole goal is keeping you safe and protected. And worrying is such a waste of energy because it doesn't change anything except your internal world. It's not going to affect anything outside. You can't over worry. You can't outthink the universe, you know? And if it's all working for you to support you, you can kind of put those worries on a shelf, which is really beautiful. So knowing that it's all stacked for you to win and trusting that you're always going to be in the right place at the right time is so helpful.
As you said that, Amber, I thought intuition is love.
Absolutely.
Like it's love. And what happens is we talk ourselves out of it because in the 3D, it may not be logical. Intuition defies logic when you do feel that nudge to go a different route on the way home than you normally do. And maybe that route will even be longer. And if we can lean into that, this is how you create through ease, joy, and fun but you've got to be able to distinguish it and catch it. So I often say that intuition is that first idea because it's the one that it's pure. It's like pure. It's like you've been given an opportunity and it's like, you don't know how. So that's the fear part, but that fear part hasn't come in yet. Your immediate idea is yes, I want to do this. That's intuition. Then what happens is the paradigm comes in. But who are you to do it? Now is not the right time. You're too old. You're too young. That makes no sense. And that is what talks you out of doing it. But intuition is always true. That doesn't mean that it's not true. It is true. And so what comes on the heels of it, in my experience and with clients, is fear. Fear then comes on the heels of it. So what I would love to do now, first, before I actually do what I would love to do now, how are you enjoying this? And please share what is coming up for you. You know, this is something that we're doing for the first time and we love it. We're so excited about it. Nisreen says, what if my intuition says yes to many things? I love it. Perfect. Great. These are great questions, and put your questions in and we will address them. Kayla says it feels very comforting and comfortable to hear. I just love it. Beautiful. So what I like to do, and I think it's something that we do really well, is always bringing these concepts into reality so that you can see how this works. What I would love to do at this point is keep Amber up and bring Tara to join the conversation. Amber, I'm going to talk to Tara about what you have talked about. And then I would also love your thoughts on it too, as you hear this conversation.
Sure, I'll be here.
Yay. Okay. Yes. Yes. I love that. Laura says, I love that intuition does not show up as fear. Beautiful. Tara, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Wonderful to see you, Hina and Amber and everyone.
Oh, so good to see you. Tara, we had a conversation recently because you had graduated and we did a celebration. And I thought, wow, your story is so perfect to share here with how you came to be in the program. Like when we think now, as you're hearing this, even with intuition and then what other people think. So can we go back to before you started working with me 6 months ago, where you first heard of me and what your idea was when it came to working with me and in my community?
Sure. So I first heard you speak in 2020. And at that time, what you were saying resonated with me so much. I just started this exciting new chapter in my life where I had left the corporate world at the top of my game. I was newly married. I was pursuing my own entrepreneurial pursuits. I was working regularly in TV and film. I was going to go on my honeymoon, and here I was about to start a family. So it was such an exciting time to me. And when you told me that we can approach our goals from the place of our goal, it was like a light bulb moment went off. I thought, wow, I think I've achieved all of this in that manner. And I wonder how I can apply that going forward. And then you said something that stuck with me. You said, you going for what you want helps everyone. And in that moment, when I was about to start all these wonderful things, and then I was finally going to have that family that I had dreamed of since I was a little girl, it really just spoke to me. I thought, wow, I can actually do all these things, and it's going to help everyone. So I was beyond excited. I made the decision then that I was going to become your client. I was going to sign up right when I got back from my honeymoon. And what happened, that was February 2020, and March 2020 hit, and the pandemic, and I didn't go on my honeymoon. And sadly, I didn't sign up with you at the time. But, I stuck with your open houses, and I held the vision that, you know what, I was going to work with you. But then I started listening to other people, became pregnant with my first child. The pandemic was dragging on. And then I had my baby, and people said that wasn't the time. And then I had another baby, and that wasn't the time. And then all of a sudden, flash forward to April of this year, and there I was, a mom of two. I had a 4-month-old in my arms, and I signed up with you in the middle of the night. And it's been the best decision that I ever could have made.
And I want to talk about what's happened in your life since you made that decision. But before we do that, I think it's so interesting, Amber, that she had that intuitive nudge to work with me. She wanted that. And then other people's literally other people's voices come in, talking her out of it, which also lines up with her fear. Like there's a part that's welcoming that because it can help you do something that is scary, that feels like a stretch, right? So it's like, yeah, maybe now is not the right time. But it's in the middle of the night when it's quiet that your intuition comes back and you sign up. Go ahead, Amber.
What a beautiful example, Tara. It's so stunning. And that just goes back to what we were saying about fate. Like you were always supposed to be here. You're supposed to get a certain medicine and a certain teaching from Hina that you can only get from Hina. And if your soul knows that, you're going to get there eventually. Our fear can prevent us from hitting those checkpoints faster, but it doesn't mean you're not going to get there. And so I really, really love that idea of taking on all of the external advice and letting it kind of put everything on a shelf, but you knowing when you had checked your own boxes and everything was still and you really got quiet enough to hear what your soul was telling you, that's when everything changed. It's just such a gorgeous, gorgeous example. Thank you for sharing.
And Amber, is that where sometimes, like, because intuition is always kind of whispering or getting our attention. So does it surprise you that it was a middle of the night? Because middle of the night, 4-month-old, and she signs up in the middle of the night. Like we woke up to like, oh, Tara's joined the community.
I think it's just the time with least distraction. I know I do my best channeling when I'm doing something mindless. So a lot of people think that you have to like be in meditation in order to channel, like in a quiet room with candles on a yoga mat. And that's not necessarily true. That works for some people, but for most people, our brains are so busy. The downloads will come in any time that we're doing something kind of monotonous. So for me, it's when I'm doing dishes. If I'm just checked out and I'm standing there doing dishes, I will get downloads like crazy because my mind is otherwise occupied. There's room for downloads to come in. So it's just kind of when you have those moments to yourself. So obviously nighttime is one of the best times for that.
And Tara, for you, how did you got this impulse then, and there's nobody to talk you out of it at that point because no one's awake other than the 4-month-old. So then making the decision to now act on that, was that fast?
It was in that moment, like literally I opened the page and I just hit send and that was it. And I did this happy little dance in the morning with my baby, and, I was a little scared and nervous too, but I just knew in that moment that this is what I needed. And this is what I needed to be the best mom for my children as well.
So let's talk about, and this is the piece about the broader perspective, how infinite intelligence knows, but you have to take the first step. Like the light came on when I opened the door. And so let's look at that now with Tara. So let's say she signed up, that's opening the door and saying, okay, I'm stepping in, literally opening the door. I'm stepping into this. What are all the things that happened with, even in the first 30 days, what happened for you, Tara?
Yeah, it was pretty incredible, because the second that, I had you as a mentor and I had the support of the community and I started hearing about everyone's incredibly inspiring stories, things kind of started to click, and I was getting back to the person that I was before I became a mom. And I was loving every minute of being a mom, but I knew there were certain things that I needed to keep pursuing. And so in that very first week, my very first day, you reminded me of what you said in 2020. And it was something that had resonated with me so much at that time, but I had forgot over these last few years that me going for what I want can help everybody. So that really brought me back to what are my goals? What are the things I want to do? And it was largely about being able to support my family in the way that I was always able to, but I didn't want to necessarily have to return to the corporate world. I wanted to still be able to pursue my entrepreneurial pursuits. So in that moment, I started, my list of 50 wants and thinking outside of the box. And within the first week, I got an opportunity that I could have never imagined. I was asked to audition for a principal role in a movie. And I had worked, in television in different aspects in the past, but I had never done anything like a principal role in a movie. And when I got it, it scared me. I thought, I can't do this. I had a bunch of reasons, and other people telling me too, that I should be focusing on my children, that, I'm too old to start acting, that, it would take away from the other things that I was focusing on and trying to achieve. But with the support of the community and everything we were learning in, I made this decision, you know what, I'm going to do it. It's those things that we don't do in life that we regret. And I remember, crazily enough, the day the audition came in, it was actually the day that my aunt passed. She had this battle with cancer. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this for her, and I'm going to do the best job I possibly can. And she was a real jokester. And this was a role so different from myself. It was a comedic role. And I just thought, oh, you know what, she gets such a kick out of this, So I did it, and I didn't think anything about it after. I just, kept focusing on my goals, and I wanted to find ways that I wouldn't take away from the maternity leave aspect and spend that time with my children, but I could still succeed. And I was shocked when just 2 weeks later, I found out that I booked the role. So within my very first 30 days, I actually made my investment back. I filmed my first role. It was a principal role in a film. And since that time, I've actually booked 2 more roles, which crazily enough were during a slowdown in the industry when there was a strike. Everyone said, oh, there's not going to be anything else. Well, 2 more came my way. I applied for a grant for my business and I was awarded it. I was selected to do a trade mission to Walt Disney World and fulfilled my dream of bringing my children to Disney World in the process. All these things that normally I would have said no to, and I've actually co-authored 2 books in the process. Doing a children's book was something I dreamed of since I was a child myself. And I co-wrote it and I illustrated it. And I found all this time just in, you know what, I'm going to work on it a bit before my kids get up, when, they go down for a nap at night. So ways that, add ease, joy, and fun for me. And I would still be able to be there and present in my maternity leave the rest of the time.
Okay. Did anyone else get chills when they listened to Tara? So much love for you in the chat, Tara. So I want to bring your attention to something. So first of all, this is all in 6 months. Mm-hmm. People will think like, oh, you must be talking about what you did over the last 5 years. That's not what we do. When you start to trust intuition, this is how it can happen. 3 roles from somebody that was not an actor and a principal role. So it's interesting because she opened the door in the middle of the night and she did not know. So that's the other thing, Amber, I find with intuition, when you trust it, you don't even need to know, but you're just following it because you know you need to follow it, even though you don't know why you need to follow it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, because what's the alternative is leaning into your fear. And we all know what that feels like, and that doesn't feel good. So when we're presented an opportunity to trust our intuition, it's almost like a what's the worst that can happen kind of thing. We're building that trust muscle. And look at how beautifully it works out if you lean into it. Tara, that's such a beautiful story.
Thank you. Honestly, there's so much more. I could say it's just like beyond my wildest dreams over the last 6 months. And I'm just so grateful, to Hina and the community and all the support I've had along the way.
Thank you so much, Tara, for sharing that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And there is so much more. And what I love about what Tara is saying is that when she trusted her intuition, this is what we're saying, that there's a broader perspective that can fathom more and has more for you than you can imagine. See, when Tara couldn't imagine, Tara may have said, okay, when I sign up, I want to be able, my goal is to make back the investment within the 6 months. She couldn't imagine at that time, with where her awareness was, that it would come through a principal acting role while she's got young children, and she would figure out how to do it. But she also put herself in an environment where everyone was like, yes, you can do it. And she's also seeing it being modeled. So do you see how sometimes that one thing, if once she said yes to that, you're saying yes to so much when you trust your intuition. And we just don't know what it is. Thank you so much, Tara. One of the questions that we have, Amber, and I'm curious of what your thoughts are on this, is what happens when you have a lot of intuitive thoughts, like a lot of ideas that you want to do that all feel like it's intuition?
So this is kind of based off of your energy type. Some of us are here to experiment with a lot of different things, and that very well could be your intuition telling you to explore. And some of us are meant to try a little bit of everything and then put it down and move on to the next thing. I think if it's lighting you up, that's your first indication that it's worth a look at. And if you feel strongly about it, I forget who put it in the chat, but they said, I'm getting so many intuitive hits all of the time. Lean into what stands out the most to you. These are all beautiful opportunities for you to discover who you are, what you like, and where you're going.
And the way that I also look at it is that when you've got a lot of different ideas and intuitive hits, it's exactly what Amber said, like follow your excitement. Which one would you love to pursue? And sometimes that one thing the other things ends up falling into place because of that one thing. Where I think you want to, this is why self-study is so important, because it's going to show up different for everybody. Sometimes people will use that to not do anything. It ends up being like, oh, I just love so much, I don't know what to do. And it's a paradigm that, oh, I can't do one thing, or there's just so many things I want to do. So you want to get to know yourself and how intuition shows up to you. So you can take all of those things and then lean into your intuition and say, out of all of these things, where do I feel guided to go to now? What is my next best step? Instead of spiraling in all of the different things, and then it's 10 years later. So that's also another way that I would say to look at it as well. But following your excitement. Yes, Diana says, yes, many impulses. I'm Aries and a generator. And a lot of things get me excited.
I love that people know human design. Yes. So leaning into your design, that's exactly it. If you're a generator, you have all this energy that is supposed to go into all these different avenues until you find what hits. You're not supposed to listen to anything in your external environment telling you that's not possible, that can't be done. Look at Tara. It can all be done.
And better than you can even think of at the moment.
Oh, it's like what you always say, Hina. Okay, so it's important to touch on listening to our intuition, and also, as much as you can lean into and speak to your intuition, you can also do that with your fear. Your fear is here to protect you. Our fear is not a bad thing. We've evolved with our fear and our ego to keep us safe. And it's about training ourselves to trust that we're going to be okay if we take a chance. It's actually going to be better than we could ever imagine. And so, Hina, when you said to me, you can never measure what you're going to gain, you can only measure what you're going to lose, that hit so deep, because it's true. I know exactly how my life is going to turn out if I keep leaning into my fear, if I keep telling myself, no, I have to stay small. If I do XYZ, I might lose this. I might lose this relationship. I might lose this job. I might lose my sense of self. But you're being shown a better version of you if you can just push past that fear. So that's the terror barrier that Hina always talks about. The more we test that barrier, the more that we push that fear and we realize nothing bad is going to happen to us, actually amazing things happen to us, it gets easier. So this is building trust with your intuition. It's building that muscle. It's practicing.
I love that. It's building trust with your intuition. And to do that, we have to know, what does it feel like for us? For me, it feels, one of the ways, if there's something that is heavy or I have to look at, it literally feels like heaviness in my chest. That's where it shows up for me, and it's bringing my attention to look at something. Another way that it shows up for me is feeling expansive, is that lightness. Like that's showing me like, yes, it's kind of like red or green, like stop, do not go, do not pass go, do not go forward, or yes, go. And that's the way that it's communicated, is through feeling. Feeling is a way that it's communicated. So I'd love for you in the chat for you to share how you feel it communicates with you, your intuition. And Amber, for you, what does it look like? What does it feel like?
So I communicate with my intuition in all of the ways that you can, basically. So for me, it comes from a deep knowing, a deep feeling. I see it, I hear it, I can taste it, I can smell it. I'm just so in tune with, as a practice, I've just been doing it for so long. So I love hearing other people talk about the way that they experience intuition, because it always leads to something bigger. I'm like, oh, this is the stepping stone for like the coolest connection you're ever going to have. I wanted to answer a question that I saw, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So Nadine said, how do you know the fear you're feeling is actually protecting you? So what I mean by fear is meant to protect you is inherently it's built into us to protect us from way, way back when everything was a threat to us, before we evolved into like this kind of society. So we have all of this residual anxiety that doesn't serve us anymore, but it's still here. So if we're afraid of something, it's not serving us at all anymore. It's just left over. So we have to test that fear by trusting our intuition. We just have to be like, if I do this thing, if I take this job offer, if I sign up for Hina's program, nothing bad is going to happen to me. And you have to prove to yourself that nothing bad is going to happen by testing that barrier.
Yeah, I really love that. This is again why you have to get to know yourself. Sometimes the fear, it's misplaced. So I've talked about this before. It's like a alarm on a car. An alarm on a car will sound the exact same whether somebody is breaking in to steal it or breaking in to save a dog because the dog is overheating. It still sounds the exact same. So there could be nothing wrong, but your alarm is ringing as if there is. And this is where we have to be able to decipher what it is for us. And we do that by what Amber is saying, which is strengthening the muscle. And you've got to test it. And you've got to know, what is the worst thing that's going to happen? Even sometimes when people want to work with me, it's like, what's the worst thing going to happen? You'll be out a couple of $1,000s. Okay. That's what we can measure. What could possibly happen that you could gain? These are the ways that, and then what you want to do, I don't know how you feel about this, Amber, is then see, how does that feel? When you think about what you could possibly gain, how does it feel? And that for me is a way to connect to the intuition as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So a cool thing to note is that anxiety and excitement are the same vibrationally. It's the intention we put behind that vibration. So you really get to choose which side you lean into. It's the same feeling in your system. You put the influence on it.
And Julian says, I think he had to leave an event, just had a sense that he had to leave. And then 5 minutes after, something bad had happened. That's following your intuition.
Yeah, we hear that all the time. There's also instances of your intuition working for you. I call it like the burnt toast theory. So in the morning,
Yeah.
if you burn your toast, and like that'll like set your day off in a terrible start. You're like, oh, I burned my toast. Now I'm going to be late for work. I'm going to be stuck in rush hour traffic. It's the trust that knowing that this burnt toast and you having to take those extra 3 minutes has moved you out of something much more dangerous. Whenever I hit a hiccup like that, as annoying as it is, I'm like, you know what? This is protecting me further down the line. Like I just trust, I know that I'm always protected. And I know I can operate from the place of it's all working out for me. It's all working out for me. So I can silence my fear because I know this is old programming and I know it doesn't serve me. And I know what's waiting if I follow my intuition is so much better.
You know, as you say that, Amber, that's something that we also say in the community a lot is everything is always working out for me. And when we did our retreat, we had a plane full of probably about 20 people or so that were coming on the same flight. Somebody at the airport opened a wrong door, literally, and it led to a 5-hour delay. But even so, it's like the burnt toast. It's like, okay, this is simply the way it's supposed to happen. There's a reason for this that I may not ever know, but this is the way it's supposed to happen because we're all protected and everything is always working out for us. And it's working out for everybody on that flight. So part of intuition, I think, and strengthening that muscle is this idea that Byron Katie even talks about of accepting what is. So it is that burnt toast. It is when there's a delay. It is when you feel that nudge to leave and you don't talk yourself out of it, and then something happens. Now, here's the thing that's interesting. Sometimes with our intuition, we're actually not proven right. What I mean by that is this is why you've got to just start to trust it. You may have a desire to go down a different route to go home. Maybe it adds 20 minutes to your commute, but nothing changes. You get home, kids are still the kids. There's nothing that happened there's nothing that you know of in the news if you had gone the other route. So there are times where you're just following your intuition when you make it part of your life where you don't know what the outcome, you still don't get the proof that you should have done that. Does that make sense, Amber, what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's another beautiful example I love to use. It's like, it's just that I'm going to take this route today. You just get the download, you follow it, and you may never know what the other outcome was, but you're not supposed to. You're supposed to be future focused. We're supposed to keep moving on.
That's right. And so when we think about intuition, and now let's talk about it from the perspective of when you've got to make decisions. Amber, when you've got to make decisions and you're connecting to intuition, what would you like people to think about?
Oh, so it goes back to what you said. It's often your first nudge. It's often the first thought or feeling. It helps to pay attention to exactly that, like the butterflies in your stomach, the goosebumps that you're getting. Your body is going to signal you first. Always. So it's really getting in tune with your body as a tool, your intuition as a tool. And like Hina said, it's self-study. This is all very personal to everyone. The way that you communicate with your guides, the way that you are in tune with your intuition, it looks different for everybody. So it really comes down to pinpointing exactly what that is, using past examples, times. It's almost like, you know, when you meet someone and you just have a feeling about them, whether it's good or bad, like you can't describe it. It's like, oh, I don't know. That person's not for me. Or like, I don't know. I can't describe it. I just love that person. That's your intuition in play right there. That's your feeling. And the more that we listen to it, the more that we prove ourselves right. That person was really awesome, or that person, didn't have my best intention in mind. We've spent our whole life kind of testing that.
Yeah. And here's a question that I think I'd love to hear. I have an idea, but I'd love to hear how you respond to it, Amber. Raman asks, what if you feel you have made mistakes by trusting your intuition? At the time, it felt right, but it didn't turn out that way.
Interesting. I would ask yourself why you felt it felt right. Was it something you were listening? Was it something that you were based on past experiences? Where did your decision come from? Because a lot of times we think we're acting on intuition, but it's actually still programming that we're acting on. We're still coming from a place of like scarcity, or, well, it didn't work the last time we tried it, so why would it work this time? So I would get really clear about where that feeling came from. And also it is kind of the burnt toast theory as well. It's like there's still a lesson you were meant to learn. Just because it's not the outcome that you want, here's how intuition works. Just because it's not how you want it to look doesn't mean it's not going to get you exactly where you're supposed to be. The how is none of our business, like Hina always says. We're going to get all of the good things that are meant for us, but it might not look exactly the way we want it to look. We can't outthink the universe. We can't control that. And that's part of the trust. That's the deepest part of the trust. In readings, what comes up a lot is like, guides will say, it's in the mail. It's already sent to you. It's already on the way. The only thing you can do to mess it up is keep moving and hopping around and not checking the mailbox because you're afraid to open the mailbox. Like, you get to decide how you receive these good things. Your intuition is put here to help you get there.
And on that note, I think if at that time, as you look back, because only you can do this, Raman, is really look back and say, did I ever have any doubt or contradictory thought? Was it my intuition, or was it what I wanted it to be? Mm-hmm. So that's something as well, right? Sometimes we're like, oh, I really want it to be this, so we're trying to force it. And let's say, Raman, you really sit with it and you're saying, yes, this was my intuition. It feels like intuition and how intuition has led me before. Then where I personally would go is, beautiful. Intuition is love. Intuition is to protect me. So it chose this way for me to learn something, because the other way could have been a lot worse. Like, so I'm so protected that intuition chose this way because I'm okay. I'm surviving this. It's fine. I've learned my lessons from it. Chose this way to show me something. And as opposed to another way, which would have been maybe more damaging. So that's how I see it with the burnt toast theory, that it was still protecting you. And then you take the lessons from it so that you don't need to repeat this lesson again, because a lesson is repeated until it is learned. Trust me, I know. Sometimes I'm like, oh, Lord, I wish I learned that lesson the first time around. And many times it was in not taking the learning from it and not trusting my intuition with it. Yeah. I just wanted to, so Raman, I think there was another question from Sylvia about how do you touch lightly when you know you are following your intuition about something? Sylvia, if you could share in the chat a little bit more about what you mean by that, I think that would be super helpful. Raman says, thank you, Hina and Amber. Yes, looking back, perhaps I forced it because I wanted it. Lessons. So in that case, it may not have been your intuition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We become obsessed with the outcome a lot of the time, and then we just become blind to our intuition.
Yeah. And I think of times, and I'd love to hear for yourself, Amber, times where intuition spoke to you, and I'd like to share some stories. And I like to do this so that we can bring the theory into experience, because this is all good. We can talk about it, but we want it to land with something tangible. So for me, I share this story about Paul in, I think it's episode 3 of my podcast on responsibility. And for me, how my intuition was trying to alert me to something was a dream that I had had. And in this dream, there were all of these empty alcohol bottles underneath the bed. And I remember I woke up feeling sick to my stomach. And then if you listen to the podcast, you'll see I talk about this, how all of that unfolded. That was my intuition literally screaming at me, you've got to pay attention to this. There's something going on here, and it would prove to be right. Another time I was feeling this, we had to do something in the business. And I felt this dread in my chest. And the dread was so heavy that I woke up in the middle of the night and canceled what we were going to do. And it made no sense to do it because I knew what was going to happen. Tell me if you can relate to this. It was actually going to cause problems because I was not being my word. I was going back on something. And it was going to create chaos. Jean, you can relate to this? But I knew I had to do this. So I did it, and chaos ensued, even to the point where I questioned, God, why did I do this? Should I have done this? And then it would be like, Julian, with your situation, for me, it was 2 days later that it showed me why I did that. So for me, it can come in my dreams. It can come as a knowing. How has it shown up for you, Amber? Do you have an example for yourself with intuition?
So I always say that being intuitive is my state of being. Every decision I've ever made has got me here because I've leaned into my intuition. And so in instances where I'm deliberately not listening to my intuition, I'm letting fear win. Like I always say, I can talk myself out of anything, and that's true. So when I met Hina, my initial instinct was I loved being in her energy. It was so transformational. We started as kind of friends before we started working together. And I was like, I know that there's something she can teach me, and maybe I should really sign up for her program. And so we started talking about that. And of course, my fear steps in and all of the external steps in. And it's like, how is this going to work? Do you have the time? It was like at the busiest point in my career. I was like, I don't even know if I can commit to this. I would tell her all the time, I don't know if I can show up the way that I want to. And I let all of this fear get in the way. And then I told her I would have an answer for her after my birthday, which was in July. And for my birthday, I went to Chicago. And when I went into a museum that I just decided, I was walking by and I was like, I'm going to go in there. Totally intuitively, just was like, oh, I want to check this out. Walked in. Hina, I sent you the photo. On the wall, as soon as I walk into this museum, there's a Grateful For wall, and someone had taken magnetic letters and wrote Hina, Hina, and it was right underneath Grateful For. And I was like, oh, I'm not listening. So now they're going to show me. Like, I could not make that up. I took a picture and I sent it to her when I got back, and I was like, I got my sign because I wasn't listening to my intuition. The one time I don't, they're like, oh, don't miss it.
And oh my gosh. And again, it's like when Amber signed up, we didn't know this was going to happen.
No.
This was not something that we were talking about, but so intuition is connected to God, source, infinite intelligence. So it's got the broader perspective. So in following it, you're also trusting that there's a reason for it, even if you don't know the reason right then and there. So tomorrow, Adrian, we are going to talk about signs. Tomorrow, we're going to go into signs and synchronicities and how to know. We're going to go into all of that tomorrow. I want to go back to Sylvia. Sylvia said, your intuition tells you to take a certain approach in business, and it is now taking time, and no one wants to grip and force. So your intuition leads you to something, but it feels like it's taking time. So how do you still be light about it? Amber, what are your thoughts when that happens?
Sorry, I'm just going to touch on Adrienne first. She said, sure. I would love to be tuned in enough to get signs that clear. We all have that ability. And like I said, it's just because I wasn't listening to my intuition for once. Like you do have the ability to get signs that clear by leaning in like that. It's so cool. Sorry, can you repeat, Hannah?
Yeah, and also we're going to go deeper into the signs tomorrow, with exactly what they should be looking for or how it shows up for them to start to think about it and make those connections. And then with Sylvia, it's like, so let's say, Amber, your intuition is telling you to do something. So you're like, okay, I'm in. Things don't change as fast as they did for Tara, where it's like 2 weeks, principal role in a movie, and maybe doubt comes in, or you start to like wanting to force and grip. So what do you do when you're not seeing the evidence yet? Like it doesn't feel like it's happening and you've trusted your intuition.
So you really have to let go of expectation. That's going to be the one thing that's going to push it further away from you. And that's one of the hardest things to do. It is pure trust. It's pure trust. So when Hina and I were first talking about how she can develop her intuition more strongly, I brought up signs, which we're going to do a whole class on tomorrow, right? So you can actually, like your team is so involved, you can communicate with them whenever and however you want to. And so I got in the habit of being like, okay, if I'm just supposed to cool it and trust, send me a sign. And then I was actually able to like pick that sign with my team, but we'll talk about that more tomorrow. And then Andrea asked, how does your home team decide to choose you? So it's all kind of predetermined in my experience. It comes from past existences you've had, any guides that are going to help you when you hit those specific checkpoints. It's kind of all orchestrated so that you have everything you need in your home team at different times in your evolution. I know that's like a long answer, but.
Well, the other thing that I would say about that, Amber, is that the home team, from what I understand in our work together, can also change. What I mean by that is that sometimes you, as you say, you'll pick up a different guide, or for certain parts of your life, it might have been this configuration, but then more support, like a different kind of support or a different guide may show up for a different season of your life. So even with Tara, there may have been a different guide that came in for this season of her life to be the person that can experience acting and raising a young family and going after her dreams and doing this program.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you have your core that are born with you, that come through with you. And then it's true, like Hannah said, we do pick them up as we go. And it's based on what we experience. It's based on our free will. Depends on places you move to, people you date. We gather all of these different guides to help us with whatever situation we're in at that time. And they do rotate. So if you ever do a reading with me, like Hannah knows, I'll be like, oh, who has the spotlight today? Like, who is most prevalent in your evolution at this point? And then we'll do a reading 6 months later and they'll have changed somewhat. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah. And Nisreen also mentions the synchronicities. That's also what we're going to talk about, go deeper in tomorrow. She says, I was brushing my teeth and listening to a podcast by Hina, and she was talking about brushing teeth. Also, I'm getting a lot of other synchronicities in my life. General things show up in my life, and I read that this is a sign that you are on the right path of your life. Nisreen, I do the same thing. I think that I no longer say, oh, what a coincidence. Like, oh, that's a coincidence, like as if it has just happened out of nowhere. Our world, everything is with mathematical precision. It's like even the timing of when you decide. I'll give you an example. I had done a podcast with Kate Taylor Martin. Kate Taylor Martin, we'd recorded the podcast, owns a nut bar, which I should personally have shares in because I'm there all the time. So I've done the podcast the day before. The next day, I'm at Verity, which is a women's business club in Toronto, and I'm going to drive home. And on the way, I'm thinking, do I feel like getting a smoothie? Do I not feel like getting a smoothie? And then what I do, another way I go to my intuition, because intuition is love. I ask myself, what would I love? What would I love? What would I prefer? Apparently, I loved a smoothie that day. So you have to understand, I have been visiting this location for a long time. I've never seen Kate there. I walk in and Kate is there. Kate's jaw drops. She's with a friend. Her jaw drops because she says, "We were just talking about you." And I walked in. Here's the thing, Nisreen. You could not manufacture that. That has to do with the time that I decided to take my shower. That has to do with the time that I decided to end my workout. That has to do with the traffic lights that were stopping me at a certain time for me to go at that time. That had to do with the intuitive nudge. So this is mathematical precision. This is not, luck is not a strategy. When people say good luck, I'm like, luck is not a strategy. This is designed. And we can co-create in it and use it as a superpower of ours, or we could just be like, oh, that's it, oh, how lucky, how this. But what if you believed that that was designed for you? And then how seriously would you take that meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Amber, please say something. I don't know. I'm getting worked up here.
No,
it's too good.
It's perfect, Hina. It's perfect. Like, what if you could leverage that, right?
Yes.
And I love what you said about the traffic lights. Yeah. So this helps to put your fear on a shelf, because it's like, you worrying about not getting to work on time is not going to get you to work on time. Let's practice being in the moment, present in that car. There's something you're supposed to be getting in that moment. Worrying about being late is not going to make you not late. It's just going to add so much more stress to your day. So it's about realizing that fear is something that we can kind of control and get a handle on. Mario said, there are no coincidences. I'm always fascinated by the way things happen. It's fun and magical. 1,000% true. Nothing is coincidence. There are no coincidences. It all happens for you, and it all happens for a reason. Whether it be a lesson or a blessing, there is something of value for you in every moment that you're living.
And as you strengthen this muscle, just think about your business. Think about your business, the amount of money that you would like to make, the impact that you want to make, where you want to go in your professional life, your personal life. Everything just starts to flow, because when you are following intuition, you're in flow. And when Amber talks about her channel opening, to me, Amber, you can tell me if for you, if it's different, but I think of the channel opening as in there's no kink. Like, think of a garden hose. When there's a kink in the garden hose, it stops the flow. It can slow it down. Sometimes it will stop it completely, depending how tight the kink is. Well, I think of channel opening and I think of flow. It's simple. It's simply flow. And how do you know things? Again, it's like if you think of young people, or that you know something, but you haven't had the education on it, like a math prodigy or somebody that can sit down at a piano and just all of a sudden play, and they haven't taken lessons. How do you know that? Where is that coming from? This is what we're talking about. And then now think that you're accessing that for who's on your team, what things you're going to sign up for, what you're going to do. And you trust that the universe has your back. The universe is doing the heavy lifting, which is why you don't have to worry about the how. You've got your home team, as Amber says, your cheerleaders that are like, you just open the door. We got you. Mm-hmm. You jump. We're your parachute that's going to open. But we can't open if you don't jump.
I got a visual, Hina, when you said, like, Amber, when your channel opened, it was just acceptance. That's what it was. It was just unkinking my own hose and being like, oh yeah, I can receive this. I can accept this. I can trust it.
Oh, okay. Again, scale of 1 to 10. How are you enjoying it? We've only got a few minutes left, and there is some housekeeping that I would like to do. I would like to answer one question from Andrea, then we'll go to housekeeping, but let me know how this has been for you. Also, that was 90 minutes. Did it go by fast? Did it go by slow? Like, I think when we're in flow, time is different too when you're connected to the infinite, because there is no time in infinite. It's just always now. Andrea says, I was presented with an opportunity recently that I had wanted, but I chickened or lost my courage when faced with it to action on it. How do I recover from this or repair this situation? I feel like the universe responded to my request and I ignored it. Do I get a second chance?
Oh.
So what I say is, I don't live in the reported world. I live in the created world. So nobody decides for me that I get a second chance. I create my second chance. You go, Andrea. This is my opinion, and Amber can give hers. Now is your opportunity to show up as the person with the goal. How does she go back and repair this situation? Your next step is not the outcome of whether you do it or not. Your next step could be going to repair it or to bring some more information. But I think you create your second chance. You don't wait for anyone to give it to you. Amber, what are your thoughts?
Oh, Hina, I love. That's why Hina and I work so well together, because she is the action step, the mindset portion, and it just perfectly aligns with the spirit side of things. It's all second chances, baby. You get as you want. You get to try again. Again, this is like the fate and free will thing. You needed to learn something through not taking that opportunity the first time. What is meant for you is never, ever going to pass you. Ever. You can't get this wrong. I promise you. When you have integrated what you need to integrate, when you've learned what you need to learn, you're going to be faced with all of these other opportunities that just get you to a higher and higher place.
So good. Okay. Some housekeeping. If you are not in our Facebook group, The Success Circle, please join that now. We'll drop the link in for you to join that, because that's where the home play is going to happen. And we have something very exciting for all of you that have the opportunity to win, that show up live and do the home play. So you're interacting and you're really playing full out. Amber and I we're going to do a draw. And this is what is so fun. Let's bring Amber back up here, please. So Amber and I are going to, my team will do the draw. I never want to be involved in the draw. I'm like, just send me the name. So we're going to have a draw with all of your names in it. One name is chosen. When we hear that name, Amber and I are going to get together and we're going to create a bundle of things that we intuitively feel we want to give you. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that so fun? Amber, do you want to say anything about that?
I'm so excited. And I had the brilliant idea. She texted me yesterday. She's like, what if we just intuitively design a basket? And I was like, I'm so there. I can't wait. Also, can I touch on one more thing, Hina?
Yes, please.
Someone had asked way earlier, what happens in this kind of setting for me energetically? Like, is it overwhelming? The answer is yes. And that's why boundaries are really important. But it also allows Hina and I to totally customize this container for whoever is participating. And it is the greatest joy of my life. Like, Hina and I, even in doing this masterclass, are working from a place of intuition. This class happened the way that it did for exactly who's here today. So all the energy is welcome.
Love that. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're going to hear more about Amber and her process throughout the next few days as well. So I think this is so fun. Like, we're going to have a name, and then we're just intuitively going to fill a basket. So we're not going to ask this person any questions. We don't want to know anything about you. I may already know you, but we're not going to ask you, oh, what do you like? What's your favorite color? Nothing. I'm just going to be like, I think that this person needs this, this, and this. Amber's going to say this, this, and this. And then we're going to put it together and send it to you. So it literally is personalized and one of a kind. Okay. Are you ready for your home play? We like to say home play instead of homework. In the Success Circle, you're going to see a post which says, name a time your gut feeling was right about something. I want you to name that time and describe it, share it with us in the comments of that post. For those of you watching on my Facebook personal page, we'll drop the link in there for you to join the Success Circle, because that's also how you can win this amazing personalized basket. Tomorrow, we're going to dive into signs and synchronicities, how to recognize them, how to know when to move on them, and the different ways that they can show up as well. We've talked about repeated numbers, but that's only one way. There are many, many different ways that it can show up for you. Amber, thank you so much for such an incredible, incredible day one. We had over 100 people on this call, and then we've got Facebook and everything else. And I know that people that are on this call right now will be listening to the recording. There was so much information here. Thank you for delivering so much value.
Thank you for having me. Always so wonderful to spend time with you and all these amazing people. Thank you. Thank you.
So with that, we're going to hand it over to Gabby to close off this meeting. Thank you, Gabby.
Thank you, Hina and Amber. What a wonderful session. I'll share to wrap it up some of the things that came up for me. That intuition will never give you what if. Like, how powerful is that? When you trust the universe, it has your back. And working from intuition is all about trust. And I love, if you think there's a coincidence, there's no coincidences. Amber shared with us that there's always a lesson or a blessing. So when you follow your intuition, you are in flow. We are so looking forward to seeing you tomorrow when we talk about synchronicities and signs. Be sure to join our Success Circle and answer that question to name a time when your gut feeling was right about something. We want you in that draw to have that curated package from Hina and Amber. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. You will receive a copy of this recording. Bye-bye.